Hey everyone, I'm Johnny Hill. I'm a UX designer at Expiro. I'm here to talk about wireframing to gather requirements. So usually, at least in previous experiences, oftentimes a new feature request will come in from a client and they'll say, go to your developers, get an estimate from them, get them to build it up, and then we'll see what we can do from there. We'll get it running in development and we'll assess at that point. Usually, for this new feature, that'll take 2 weeks. The problem is, if you start with your new feature request, you get all that given to your developers, they build out the new feature, and then you take that to the client, and they don't like it, you just wasted 2 weeks of your time. You paid your developers for work that we can't really end up using. There'll be a ton of refactoring, it's a huge waste of time. So instead, often what we'll do is we'll say, take that new feature, give it to a user experience designer, like myself, I'll spend maybe 2 days on it. After that, I take that design to the client, get their approval. Maybe not. Maybe they say that's great, or maybe they'll say no, spend another 2 days on it. Either way, spend 2 or 3 days, maybe a week at most, designing wireframes. After we finally get client approval, we export that wireframe into a spec document using a tool called Zeppelin. You may have heard of it. It's a wonderful tool. It basically puts all of our designs into a spec file that our developers can then access and gather all the information they need. During the wireframing process, we also figure out a lot of the fine granular details that the developers would need to ask during this 2 weeks anyway. So we're shortening that time frame as well because the requirements have already been refined by the wireframing process. We already have a spec generated instead of telling our developers what they need without giving them any spec information. So we're saving time there as well. We already have stakeholder buy-in, so they're all set to go. We know that the feature's been approved and they have what they need. So we're saving time on multiple fronts. By the time we're at this point, maybe it's taken a week. We can get that information to developers and it may not even take them 2 weeks to implement, and we have the right thing from the get-go. So that's one way that we use wireframing to increase the time, or decrease the time it takes to get features out the door that are already approved and that stakeholders are in line with.